we're moving.
Good morning, everybody. It's 9 o'clock in South Africa. And those of you that have joined, please do drop us a note in our chat box. Just tell us where you're from, which company you represent, and what do you want to get out of today's session. And I promise you it's going to be very good. This is going to be very practical. And yeah, you'll have a few takeaways too that you will gain. So I'm Rihanna Sinden. For those of you that don't know me, I lead the professional development portfolio. I'm also joined by Christine Brett, our vice chair, the one and only. And I see we have a number of board members joining us. Yemi, who's our chair, IBC Africa. Welcome, Yemi.
Thank you, Rihanna. Happy to be here.
Always lovely to have you. We have Nenge on the call as well. So I'm just calling out some of our board members, but please drop us just tell us where you're from. Please introduce yourself. Don't be shy. While we wait for our delegates, Adrian, how's the weather in Australia right now? Different times.
Quite a warm day today. I always love the fact that South Africa and Australia always enjoy our summers together, and summer seems to be continuing for now, which is a good thing. We never look forward to winter, even though it doesn't get that cold. But yeah, it's doing very well. We've got over the big heat that we had. Was it 47, 48 degree days we had a few weeks ago? So yeah, I'm glad it's back down to the late 20s, which is a little better.
Yeah, and I saw some news around Australia hitting record highs regarding temperatures. And you are regarded as the hottest continent at the moment?
Yes. Gosh. At the moment, isn't it usually you or us that tend to get the hottest temperatures? The joys of global warming, right?
Yes, absolutely.
If you look at the sort of Northern Americas, I mean, they're all freezing and they are deep in snow. So yeah, weird climates.
Crazy weather, very extreme.
Definitely. Adrian, I'm just keeping an eye on the clock. I see it's 3 minutes past 9. So while we wait for our delegates to join, I think let's kickstart. So warm welcome to everyone who is able to join this webinar this morning. It's 9 o'clock in South Africa and across the continent. This recording will be made available and shared to our YouTube channel. So thank you to Natalie. Natalie Patch is IBC Secretariat and she's in the background. Hi, Nats. Shout out to you. We appreciate all you do for us. And righty, so I think without further ado, Adrian, I did pop a bio to the WhatsApp group this morning introducing you. You have a very, very impressive bio. You've been in the industry for years and seemingly just have the ability to see the future. And that's why we reached out to you around AI. Seemingly a lot of conversation about artificial intelligence, which in itself sounds like an oxymoron, doesn't it?
It does, doesn't it? Thank you for that, Rihanna. It's interesting. Nobody wants to hear the War and Peace bio that I've got there. There's always that distinction of how much you put into a bio and the things that you've done, because sometimes I think it just makes you look old because you've been around for a long time and done these things. But AI, I mean, we're all navigating AI right now, and this is the coming together where we have reset what we do as a profession, and now we're working through it. So one of the first things that I'll say before we kind of head into me sharing some things and what I really want is a conversation, is to say that we're all navigating this future together right at the moment. So when we hear terms like expert and whatever else, you know, it's the expert of 5 minutes, because AI has not been around. Well, actually, AI has been around for a long time, but the fact that we're all waking up to how we use AI for content generation and what it will do for us in terms of efficiencies and so on is very, very new, and we're all navigating that together. So no matter how people are on the AI journey, it is never about feeling inadequate because I haven't used it or I haven't been doing anything with AI. It's a learning curve, and it's start now or progress in your learning journey. Now, I have to say that it's all about learning because I'm from the Centre for Strategic Communication Excellence, which is my organization, and I'm pleased to be working with you guys in South Africa. And I know we're having lots of talks about certification courses and development in this area, and it's got to be development that is accessible to people to go. It's not about just learning what AI is about. It's about practical AI and how this applies to us in our role. So that's what I hope to achieve today as we go through this. If you're happy for me to keep on tracking through, I'll share my screen. What I'm going to do is share some of the thinking and what's been happening within the industry or our profession as a whole. So I'll share some stats and I'll share some understanding of what IEBC, the Global Alliance, us at the centre have been doing when it comes to AI. And what that will do is inform the conversation we're going to have. So as you're going through this, do think of the questions. If you just go, I've got this burning issue, please do feel free to unmute and interrupt or pop your question in chat. It's being monitored, and we're more than happy to take the questions as we go, because it's got to be relevant to you guys. So let me just share for a little bit on AI, and we'll take a closer look at being really AI ready as a strategic communication professional, which I love the sound of the title of the webinar, because that's what we're all about. In terms of where are we going today as communication professionals, we're already hearing from different markets around the world that decisions are being made on jobs for communication professionals based on their understanding of how to apply AI strategically in the organization, and also work at that value piece right at the top of the organization. And so we'll unpack that a little bit as we go through. But let's just set some context. I just want us to all get on the same page when it comes to AI. And then this lovely quote from Capgemini that talks about harnessing the value of AI. And as they said, AI is in transition. The technology is moving from isolated pilots to sweeping mainstream adoption at an unprecedented pace. That's what we've seen for the last 3 years. Is we saw the advent of ChatGPT when we talk the tool, and ChatGPT changed the world. There is thousands of AI applications out there now. We're in a world where so much adoption happened early in the piece. The good news is, though, we're starting to see a settling down. So as much as there's tons of tools and whatever else in a very confusing landscape, we're starting to see AI settle into what I call normality for a little while. Even though we're in constant change, we're now starting to see we're settling into AI and how we use it in different ways. So that rate of change will feel a little less as we move into certainly this year. What I want to do, though, is just I've got this lovely little video that I use in the certification course that we do through the centre, and I think it's a really nice one just to set the scene. So bear with me; it's about 10 minutes or 13 minutes long, but it is a great little scene setter to what AI, the evolution, is about.
AI didn't start with ChatGPT or self-driving cars. It started with something much simpler and, honestly, kind of boring. If-then rules. But those early steps laid the foundation for everything we see today. And if you really want to understand where AI is going, you have to understand how we got here, stage by stage. Let's break it down. Stage 1. Rules-based systems. Back in the 1950s and 60s, the dream of building a thinking machine was already alive. Researchers weren't training models on billions of data points. They were writing rules. Literally lines of code that said, if X happens, do Y. One of the most famous early programs was ELIZA, created in 1966 by Joseph Weizenbaum at MIT. ELIZA mimicked a psychotherapist by rephrasing user input as questions. If you typed, "I'm feeling sad," ELIZA might reply, "Why are you feeling sad?" It wasn't smart. It didn't understand emotions, but it fooled people into thinking it did. That was one of the first real-world moments where humans projected intelligence onto a machine. By the 1980s, these rules-based systems evolved into what were called expert systems. Companies like Digital Equipment Corporation used them to troubleshoot hardware. Medical expert systems like Mycin were built to suggest treatments for infections. For a while, businesses believed expert systems were the future. In fact, by the mid-80s, the market for expert systems was valued in the billions. But here's the catch. These systems were brittle. If you gave them a situation outside their rules, they broke. Imagine trying to write down every possible medical scenario or troubleshooting step. It just didn't scale. That's why expert systems peaked in the late 80s and collapsed by the early 90s. What replaced them was something much more powerful. Machines that didn't just follow rules, but actually learned patterns from data. Stage 2. Machine learning emerges. This is where AI took a sharp turn. Instead of telling the computer exactly what to do, researchers started teaching it how to learn from examples. By the 1990s, machine learning became the dominant approach. A classic example, spam filters. Instead of writing endless rules like, if the email contains the word lottery, mark it as spam, machine learning algorithms looked at thousands of real emails and figured out the statistical patterns that separated spam from legitimate mail. This was a huge leap, because the system could adapt as spammers changed tactics. Recommendation engines also came out of this era. When Amazon introduced its customers who bought this also bought feature in the late 90s, it wasn't random. It was powered by collaborative filtering, a machine learning technique that studied user behavior to predict what else you might like. That recommendation system is still a cornerstone of Amazon's business today. Around the same time, speech recognition started making progress. In 1997, Dragon Naturally Speaking launched as the first large vocabulary continuous speech recognition software for consumers. It required training, but it was a glimpse of what was possible when you combine machine learning with computing power. The limitation, though, was scale. These early models couldn't handle massive amounts of data. They were narrow, good at one task, bad at everything else. But they opened the door to the next stage, when data, algorithms, and computing power collided and pushed AI into territory no one thought possible. Stage 3. Deep learning revolution. If machine learning was about teaching computers to learn from data, deep learning was about giving them a brain-like architecture to learn at scale. The term deep comes from deep neural networks, layers upon layers of artificial neurons that process data in stages. The breakthrough moment came in 2012. A team led by Geoffrey Hinton at the University of Toronto entered the ImageNet competition, a massive challenge to classify images into categories. Their deep neural network crushed the competition, cutting error rates by more than 40%. That single win is often marked as the birth of modern deep learning. Suddenly, AI wasn't just recognizing patterns in spreadsheets. It was identifying cats in YouTube videos. In fact, in 2012, Google trained a neural network on 10 million random YouTube thumbnails. And without any labels, the system learned to recognize cats on its own. That was a moment of cultural buzz. The idea that machines could teach themselves concepts humans never explicitly programmed. From there, the dominoes started falling. Speech recognition systems like Siri and Google Voice went from frustrating to actually usable around 2014 to 2016 because of deep learning. Translation took off with Google Translate's Neural Machine Translation update in 2016, which made translations far more fluent. Then came AlphaGo in 2016. Built by DeepMind, it defeated world champion Lee Sedol in the ancient game of Go, a game considered far too complex for brute force computing. That wasn't just a win in a board game. It showed that AI could master strategic reasoning and long-term planning in ways most researchers didn't expect to see so soon. The 2010s were the decade of deep learning dominance, but deep learning still had one catch. It was narrow. These systems were incredibly strong in their own lanes. Chess, Go, image recognition, speech, but they didn't generalize. They couldn't step outside their trained domain. That set the stage for what came next. Foundation models that could learn once and apply across countless tasks. Stage 4. Generative AI and foundation models. Around 2018, AI entered a new stage, one that directly shapes our daily lives today. Instead of training a separate system for every single task, researchers built foundation models, huge neural networks trained on vast amounts of general data, from books to websites to images. The results were startling. In 2019, OpenAI released GPT-2, a model that could generate paragraphs of text that sounded coherent. By 2020, GPT-3 pushed this to the extreme with 175 billion parameters, showing a single model could handle translation, summarization, Q&A, and even code writing. It wasn't perfect, but it was versatile, a major leap from narrow AI. It wasn't just text. Generative AI spread across modalities. DALL-E 2021 could generate images from prompts. Stable Diffusion 2022 made AI art open source, sparking a wave of creativity and controversy. Midjourney became a cultural phenomenon, with AI-generated art flooding social media. In parallel, text-to-video and text-to-audio models emerged. In 2023, Runway Gen 2 and Pika Labs showed AI could generate short video clips from text. OpenAI released Whisper in 2022, a state-of-the-art speech recognition model, and in 2024 unveiled Sora, demonstrating realistic, long-form AI video generation. By 2023 and 2024, generative AI wasn't just an experiment, it was integrated into mainstream tools. Microsoft embedded GPT into Office as Copilot. Google launched Gemini to compete head-to-head. Adobe added Firefly AI directly into Photoshop. Millions of people now use generative AI every day, from writing emails to creating art. But here's the hook. These models don't understand the world. They predict patterns based on training data. That's why they sometimes hallucinate facts or make reasoning errors. They're powerful, but they're not yet general intelligence. The leap from generating to acting, from responding to initiating, is what defines the next stage: autonomous agents. Step 5. Autonomous agents. If generative AI was about producing text, images, and videos on demand, autonomous agents are about taking action. These systems don't just answer prompts. They plan, decide, and execute tasks across multiple steps. In 2023, tools like AutoGPT and Baby AGI grabbed headlines. They chained together multiple uses of large language models to set goals and carry them out with little human input. For example, AutoGPT could be told, research the best headphones under $200 and compile them into a report. And it would run web searches, analyze results, and generate a document. More recently, companies have pushed this idea further. In 2024, Cognition AI unveiled Devon, Marketed as the first AI software engineer, Devin could take a high-level instruction like build a site with a logon system and handle the coding, debugging, and deployment steps. While not flawless, it highlighted how agents move us from assistants that help to systems that work. We're also seeing agents deployed in customer service, finance, and even robotics. Autonomous AI call center agents are already being piloted by startups and enterprise firms to handle real customer interactions without human handoff. In robotics, labs are experimenting with giving language models control over real-world robots, connecting reasoning with physical action. But this autonomy raises new challenges. Who's accountable if an agent makes a bad decision? How do we keep them aligned with human intent? These questions tie directly to the next stage in the evolution of AI. Stage 6. Artificial General Intelligence, AGI. AGI is the point where AI systems can perform a wide range of intellectual tasks at human level or beyond. Unlike narrow AI, good at one task, AGI would be flexible, adaptive, and capable of transferring knowledge across domains. Tech leaders openly debate how close we are. Sam Altman of OpenAI has said AGI could arrive within the next decade, while others argue today's large models are still missing core ingredients like reasoning and true understanding. Geoffrey Hinton, one of the godfathers of AI, left Google in 2023 partly to speak freely about the risks of advanced AI, warning that systems may learn faster than expected. We're seeing steps in that direction with multimodal models, AI that can process text, images, audio, and video together. Google's Gemini and OpenAI's GPT-5 demos in 2024 highlighted reasoning across multiple formats, but whether scaling these models leads directly to AGI or whether new breakthroughs are required remains an open question. For now, AGI is still a research goal, not a present reality. But what lies beyond AGI is even more transformative and more controversial. Stage 7. Artificial Superintelligence, ASI. ASI is the hypothetical stage where AI surpasses human intelligence in every domain. If AGI is human level, ASI is beyond human. It could solve problems humans can't, from drug discovery to climate modeling, at speeds we can't match. This isn't science fiction, it's a logical extrapolation. If machines reach human-level intelligence and they can self-improve, they may rapidly surpass us. That's why governments and companies... AI didn't start with ChatGPT or self-driving cars. It started with something much simpler and, honestly, kind of boring. If-then rules. But those early steps laid the foundation for everything we see today. And if you really want to understand where AI is going, you have to understand how we got here, stage by stage. Let's break it down. Stage 1. Rules-based systems. Back in the 1950s and 60s,
Right, I'm going to leave it there just so we can move on. But as you can see, we're at a point in our AI journey where we are absolutely mastering the teaching elements of AI to help with our craft and to help it get better. So AI is being seen as that partner, certainly in the work that we do as communication professionals. I had this great opportunity this last year to work with an organization out of the States. And we were a pilot for could it learn my job type AI. So I worked with this organization and they actually had a model in which AI was at its absolute basic operating system, and we gave it its first instructions. So we taught this AI to grow up as a communication professional. So we gave it all of the data around our understanding of strategic communication, how to reason, all of those things, and started giving the AI agent. But what you could see were the neurons in this artificial brain actually bursting and making connections. And then we did a lot of testing once we'd given it all of its information that programmed this agent. And I tell you what, it was getting stuff really right. But even just in the 6 months or so when we started playing with this for fun, we noticed that ChatGPT and other systems are getting just as good at doing that now. And I'm sure you've found that in your journey of discovery. But what does it tell us? And this is what we need to explore in terms of what does this mean to us and our role and using AI strategically. So there was a study that was done by the Melbourne University and KPMG, talked about trust attitudes and the use of artificial intelligence. And this was done at the end of last year. And the quote I've taken from this is that AI has the immense potential to transform lives, boost industries, and help tackle some of the most pressing global issues. But fully realizing this potential requires collaboration, a collective commitment to responsible innovation, and appropriate regulation. Because as you can see, those other stages in the development of AI, if goes unchecked, we need to be concerned that people will use the innovation side of AI and just run free. But at the same time, what we don't want to do is close it down to say we're not going to use AI, or we've got to disclose absolutely everything and all of those things. So we've got to find that balance. Well, and I'd love to have that as part of the discussion. So out of that study, what we found, and this was really interesting, is the usage of AI for work and personal use. So there was still, even towards the end of the year, lots of people that have never even touched AI that they know of. I mean, AI is in the background of a lot of stuff that we do now, but have they actively used the tools? There was still quite a big group that haven't. And as you can see that, you know, how much that usage is to on a daily basis. And most, so many people now are using it kind of the minute by minute and replaced Google and all of those sorts of things. What I want to really bring to the fore, and I think this is an interesting one for where we might need to develop as communication professionals in the parts of the world that are absolutely out there playing with AI. So usage across the globe, what we tend to find is that we've got this huge usage in AI in emerging economies, in the developing economies. So many parts of Africa, the Middle East, and things like Eastern Europe and Latin America are all quite openly using AI quite a lot. But also the trust in AI is the issue, and I'll talk about that in a moment. But what we're missing is things like the training of AI. Organizations are putting AI in place, and they're really not about developing the capabilities and the competencies of people within the organization. And that becomes problematic, because then how is it used, and are we using it properly, and are we doing all the guardrails and the checks? And I think that's the key thing that we really need to start focusing on, and we can have or be those advocates for that within organizations. So there's varying knowledge in AI. Most people are by the practical use, but I think there's really the benefits of AI is where we're starting to build our knowledge in how we can use it in the most effective way in the role of communication. As I said before, that trust in AI in the emerging economies is huge. So if you're using it a lot and you trust it, then the output from a lot of the AI, and if we think about the hallucinations that AI tends to have, because it is still based on what it's being trained, is a big problem, to be perfectly honest. So there's that dichotomy between quality as well as the efficiency of the tools. In early 2025, the center partnered with Reputation Lighthouse in the US for the Global Alliance's study on AI. And it's the first study that we had done globally in the communication profession. And it was called Reimagining Tomorrow. And it was AI in PR and communication. So what we found is that usage of AI within organization was great, but there was what we tended to have is people were bringing their own tools to work. So when companies initially were looking at AI going into the organization, there was a lot of, oh no, don't use it, or we think it's insecure, or you're going to impact data. But people were using it anyway. And that became a real problem because we're not having the conversations early enough to say how we use and how we protect data. And that's that education piece again. So people were absolutely bringing their own device or bringing their own AI to the table. We also found there that there was limited governance within organizations, limited approvals. And so when we looked at the different organizations and what they were doing, there's a big gap in things like responsible AI and how we use AI within organizations. So most people were allowed to use it within their organizations, their team, fairly freely, only generally if they brought their own device or their own program, or they used the company content outside of work hours. But what did people see as the greatest opportunities? And remember, this is the communication profession. Faster content creation. I think we all get that. But it was interesting that they also said improved quality, which was quite high in this one. I mean, I know it's 39%. It's still under that 50% area. But I think that improved quality, if people are seeing the quality of stuff happening, and that's from the communication profession, is really interesting. But early last year, it was about task automation as well. And enhanced creativity was a couple of those others that were at the top end there. I think this year, as we do the survey again, which is going to be launched in the next couple of weeks, we're going to see automation go up much further. We're finding now that communication functions are starting to look at how we use AI to automate some of those basic tasks that we do. And it's much more about workflows at the moment, not about, and obviously not about autonomous agents, but it's really looking at what tasks can be done on behalf of the organization. So, and it could start at some of those basic tasks. So if we're early in our careers, what jobs do we do now is the big question that we're tackling. And that might be a question for you too, because I think that one we do need to unpack. But what it did set for us is we needed to look at responsible AI and how we govern AI in our organizations. And there's two things I'll say. One is about the practicalities of helping govern the use of AI in communication, and we need to keep it within our sphere of influence. But it is also around how we utilize AI within the organization and what it is that we do. So we went on a journey in the last 2 years as a profession globally. And so a couple of things that were put in place. Now, IABC, that we're all very much part of, decided very early in the piece, while we were developing what's called the Venice Pledge, I'll talk about in a moment. We started, like most associations globally, we adopted AI guidelines, but we embedded them within the ethical principles of the organization. So IABC had its 6 basic areas that it looked at, things like accuracy and verification, basically checking stuff, which we kind of know we need to do, that there's a human in the loop, and every piece of policy that's come out in the communication profession has exactly the same thing. Things like compliance, confidentiality and protection, bias, and transparency in AI use. Now, they're great terms, but it's not until you get under the hood, what does that mean? If we looked at the last one there, transparency in AI use, here's a challenging question. So do we disclose every time we use AI? It is a little bit like disclosing every time we add up numbers, are we using a calculator? We'd kind of go, do we really need to do that? There has to be some common sense approach with the ethics here and some guidelines that say this is what we mean by this. So it's about unpacking some of this stuff. We also looked at this from a center point of view, but we looked at it is that there's roles that we need to develop within the organization. So there was 3 principles that we said when it comes to AI, when we're looking at this in a responsible use point of view. So we can help organizations develop responsible guidelines. We are the experts in communication. We should be able to support the organization in helping to develop those guidelines. We need to be part of, if not driving, the oversight and governance of AI within organizations because of reputation and reputation damage when organizations can fall off the cliff when they're looking at AI. We're seeing many global examples of organizations having real crisis issues because of the use of AI or the way that it may be ridiculously biased against particular groups, or we're using AI agents to answer phones and they're giving the wrong information. But the third role is about providing that training and development. And I think this is going to be a key role for the future, because now that communication is more in the hands of the individual within organizations, we may not be able to control it, which we haven't been able to do with social media, to be perfectly honest. But what we can do is provide the guidelines and provide the training so people get it right. And I think that's where we play a hugely important role. Now, I won't go into the background pieces on this one, just in the interest of time. But again, I just wanted to set some stuff so we can have this conversation. What we found on a global level is most people that were dealing with responsible AI and what that meant to organizations were from the technology side. And so you saw guidelines like this one, which is fairness and bias mitigation, transparency and explainability, accountability and governance. Now, they're very technical based. So it's about when we're developing AI, these are the things that we need to look at. However, as communication professionals, we have a very different role in our organizations because it is about the way that we're perceived. It is about our reputation. It's about the right thing to do for people. So we saw, and then we did a little bit of research in the Global Alliance and looked at what's the other things that we need to look at apart from the technical side of responsible AI? And it was the human side. So we took some advice and some information from the Antigua et Nova. I'm not sure if anybody has ever looked at this. This is the work that was done by the Vatican to say, in a world with AI is developing, what are the things that we need to really look at? And if I distilled this very complex document down into 3 things, it was about human dignity, justice, and truth. And I love those principles that it talks about. It's AI's role in society. And a great example of that is years ago when cloning came about, because we could clone, did that mean we need to clone people? And that argument was bandied around for a while. And the decision was, no, this is not about cloning people, but it's helped the medical professional in cloning body parts and those types of things and skin. And we've had all of these advancements in medical, but we didn't take it to that extreme. But it's also about balancing technology, ethics, and a big word in here is morals. Just because we can do something, should we? And so when we think about the communication role here, do we think about being the moral compass for the organization? And I think that's an important distinction as well. So I won't go through this word for word, but what we needed to do is get on the same page globally for the profession to what do we mean by responsible AI. And so we created a statement that we've now rolled out across the globe through all the different associations. IABC is a member of the Global Alliance. My center is a member of the Global Alliance, and all associations globally have generally membership to that alliance. So we got a whole group of communication professionals representing all the different associations into Venice last year in May. And we looked at what do we mean by responsible AI and what are our guiding principles around it. And we looked at it from the filter of communication. And that's why this statement is really quite powerful, because it is about it focusing on what we do. Things of risk, privacy, data protection, organizational values, those types of things. And this starts unpacking what we need to look at from a responsible AI point of view. But the one thing that we absolutely wanted to add is that it is about societal well-being. Our profession needs to look beyond what we do to the impacts our organization has on society as a whole. So this is actually, and in fact, the communication profession is the first profession globally to actually put a principled, not policy, but a guideline out there about AI. So it came up with the 6 principles. And then what we asked people to do was sign up to it as associations to say, this is what we stand for as communication professionals. So we got representatives from all the different associations to sign up, but we also opened it up to any individual that wants to sign up. So that QR code there takes you to the Global Alliance site, and you can actually sign the Venice Pledge to say, I advocate for this initiative globally. Very quickly, ethics obviously is part of responsible AI, but it's not everything. But we think of the ethics of doing things first. We talk about human-led governance. The human has to make the decisions when it comes to governance. It's about taking personal and organization responsibility. So the actions of the people within our organizations to do what they do with communication in the AI space. The given is things like openness, transparency, and awareness. We do have a role in education and professional development. The last 2, though, I think are absolutely fundamental, that we need a global voice and we need human-centered AI for the common good. So it is always having the human in the loop. So I put together a little bit of a list of what we could be doing, and developing governance frameworks, I think, is important. Looking at ownership, defining those policies and use cases, conducting things like risk assessments, and establishing reporting processes. It's a little bit like CSR in the organization. Now, one thing I'm going to share with you today is this, which is the playbook for communication professionals. So at the end of last year, the center conducted a research into the research that had been done in communication. So we looked at 12 global reports. To what I say, brains was a colleague of mine, Wayne, and myself. And we also used Claude and ChatGPT to help us in our analysis of the data. But we looked at stuff that had already been put out there, from the Reimagining report as the central report, plus all of these other 11 reports that we looked at. What it did, it was a learning curve, is we were able to work out that research done properly doesn't have to take us a lot of time when we partner with AI. So we've got access to do a whole lot more research, which is valuable stuff to organizations in our roles. But also it told us that we could understand what are the themes that are coming out of that report, and what does that mean to this next year that we're focusing on? So this year, there's 4 things that we really need to focus on. The first is about, and they're not in order, but the first is about supporting corporate reputation by building the human connection. People have to be in the loop. We need to be listening to our customers and our different stakeholders to inform what it is that we're doing, certainly within the AI space and certainly as an organization. We cannot just outsource that to AI. So we have a fundamental role in helping organizations navigate change and reputation. So what does that mean? That means there will be an uptick in jobs when it comes to change. And it's not change management, it's change communication, and also reputation and risk management, and certainly crisis when it comes to AI. So we'll be doing the things we kind of love as a communication professional, is dealing with the risk. We have a role to help our leaders within the organization, not just navigate AI, but continue to make the connections with people, because people will continually gravitate to people in a more unconnected world when it comes to dealing with people issues. So leaders more than ever will need to have that alignment about what the organization stands for, its values, with their people. We have a huge opportunity this year in the third play, and that is to lead the conversation on responsible AI. We don't need to do this ourselves, but we need to help our companies navigate responsible AI. As consultants, there's great roles out there in helping organizations adopt policies around responsible AI. We've got a great opportunity to do that because it sits within our realm to say most usage of AI is going to be around content development and content distribution and so on, agents and all of those things, autonomous agents that are working in the organization. We can help the organization to support it. But again, it comes back to that training role. We have this great ability to build AI literacy in the organization, as well as looking at our own roles and how we can use AI to simplify. Because we have been told for years that we need to keep being the most valuable person in communication, so go up the value chain. Suddenly, if we start freeing up our time, we can spend more time and using AI to help us with the insights. So it's the research, it's the reporting, it's the measurement, all of those things that were harder to do and took a whole lot of time are starting to get easier to do. So we can have more robust conversations with our executives within organizations and our clients. So this, and I won't go into the detail of these, I'll let you read the report. So there was kind of, we had to play with this concept of archetypes. And it's saying that there's a role for the trust builder in organizations. And these are not job titles, they're archetypes. It's the person that does these types of things. So as a communication professional, we've got the trust builder, the one that is really helping the public and our stakeholders engage with the organization, feeling trusted, even in this AI space, no matter what we're doing in AI. There's the responsible AI leader. We develop our competence to actually lead the conversation on responsible AI. We can have what we call the alignment orchestrator, the person that kind of helps with that leadership development and work in aligning our organization and its employees. And then there's the AI simplifier. It could be the person that's really looking out there to say, how can we best use AI to simplify our jobs and get the best we can get out of AI rather than simply just resisting AI. So let me just stop there. Hopefully I've given you enough to kind of get those juices flowing, but I'd love to get some questions or discussions or even pushback if you don't agree with certain things.
Thank you so much.
I just saw that question pop up, Christine. Do you want me to answer that one first about stakeholder analysis?
Please, if you don't mind.
So yes, and this is one that we've been covering in our certification program. It is so powerful to get hold of the insights to the different demographics and the different stakeholders that we have. So if we work symbiotic with AI, there's the stuff we know, and there's the stuff that AI can research that gives us insight to the stakeholder and their needs. We can then use AI to help create those personas and those profiles on the customers. Now, I used to take weeks when it came to developing persona work and running workshops and whatever else. It doesn't necessarily mean I wouldn't do those, but I can combine the information that I get with AI to get these things at a much more rapid rate. So anytime I do my strategic communication plan, I get all the personas together and use AI to help it. And it was in fact one of the things that I did with the prototype of the strategic communication advisor. So it did personas really quite well.
But Adrian, sorry, can I also ask, but what about, I think what we have to keep in mind is because everybody's using AI, everybody is now using AI to read up on your company and your stakeholders. So your algorithm now becomes a stakeholder. So how do you incorporate that in your proposals or your strategies or your implementation? How can you use AI to your advantage to get that information, but also to ensure that there's a positive image of your company out there?
So there's, and this is a really good question because you're quite right, Christine. So if we used AI to get the information that we need or that understanding of the stakeholder, we have to overlay it with our absolute experience in the stakeholder or experience in numbers of stakeholders that we've worked with. Because what we don't want to do is just go, oh God, it's so easy. Let's put this demographic in there, get that stakeholder, copy, paste, and it's in our proposal. Absolutely not. It's what will be most valuable is our understanding of that application of the stakeholder. So our work, our experience, and how we've used that in the past. So it's a really good example to say, look, if we look at it from an analysis point of view, this is what it is. From an experience point of view, this is the overlay here. Because we are going to see a lot of people just going, bang, let's just throw that out there because it's dead easy to get the insight from AI. But you can't replace the insight you have from personal experience and that wiseness as a senior communication professional or a person that's worked with that stakeholder group for a long time. You're on mute. I can see you talking. Sorry.
Another question, and that's about automation. It sounds like absolute music to my ears. Okay, so I'm still old school. I still do everything. In this course that you are talking about from the CSCE, is that something that you help with, how to automate, how to get things right? Can you maybe just give us an overview of this course so that we know what we can expect?
So we've got a couple of a number of tools that we use within the certification process that we've got. Sorry, the words went out of my head just then. But there's one that we potentially use, which I think is great, and it looks like how we absolutely implement any AI tool in it. So we look at the tool, what we're trying to do. So strategically, instead of going, here's a tool, let's implement that tool, we go back to what we always talk about, and that is, what is the business issue we're trying to solve? What's the problem? What's the process we're trying to improve? Now let's do that analysis. Then let's look at the tool selection that's going to get us to do that. So what it does is it kind of turns it around, and rather than us being chased by marketers that are selling a tool, so ChatGPT, oh, ChatGPT, this and that and the other. Well, it may not be really good in particular areas. So let's look at what we're trying to do and then the tool that fits it. what we also do is we look at how we look at the things that we can streamline. So if we want to automate a process, so if it is, I mean, there's tons of programs there that kind of sort your emails and things out. But, you know, if I, as a global training organization, we have to put out a calendar every year, and we have to book in the trainers and all of those sorts of things. I looked at how we automate that through AI and said, I can give it all of the data and get it to automate the processes, give it access to the back end where it can then go in, use the calendar, book people in, and I don't have to touch it. And so it's a 30-second job instead of a 3-hour job to try and do all of that work. And so we kind of look at unpacking some of those processes and what we can do.
Adrian, I see there's a wonderful comment that Camilla made around the climate impact, and it's something that also bothers me.
Yes.
A lot has been said about people sharing these characters on LinkedIn. It's all cool and fun, but it uses fresh water, these AI servers. So one has to ask ourselves, you know, will there be a regulation around how we use these AI tools coming from an environmental impact perspective? Do you see a pushback sometime soon, or how do you foresee the future?
I hope to see a pushback soon, to be perfectly honest, because as people are exploring AI and seeing those, you know, those toy boxes and things that they did, I purposely didn't engage with that one. The temptation was huge, though, to do it because people are exploring. So there's that learning aspect to it, and people will do it. It's a bit like creating images. Every time you create an image, the impact is huge environmentally because of the power that it takes. What we have to do, and we will see this start happening, is overlay the sustainability and the environmental messages with what we're doing with AI. And this is why I think the education piece that we need to drive as communication professionals is so important, because companies could be at risk of going, they are so AI in all the things that they're doing. Suddenly, when that environmental message comes up, which it will, they could be at risk of huge reputation without looking at it. So they need to start balancing their messages now. And if I'm the communication professional for some of the big global organizations that are really, you know, moving into AI big time, I'd be advising very much around balancing that message and how they mitigate some of those environmental impacts.
Yeah, it's a bit of a contradiction there, almost a paradox. We say one thing, but we do another. Hey,
oh,
yeah,
absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. And that's the tension we're going to keep navigating.
And I think that's where typically a strategic professional, communication professional would need to come in and be the moral voice. To your earlier point, it's around the morals and the moral compass. We know we can do it. What does it really add value? It doesn't introduce a sub-risk somewhere else. Adrian, I also think Teresa, just have a look at Teresa's question. It's around jobs. And there's been a lot of discussion around jobs on LinkedIn, regardless whether you're in comms and HR, marketing and so on and so on. What is your take on this? Do we need to be concerned?
Sorry, Rihanna, and I see that Amanda's hand is
and I see Amanda's got a hand up as well. Yes, so I will answer this one quickly so we can get Amanda in at the same time. Yes, so it is. Will we see impacts? Absolutely. But what we want to make sure is those impacts are changes, not people getting rid of people. Now, I know people that have worked in consulting organizations, Accenture being one of them, that have absolutely got rid of people because they said we're going to get agents to be doing these things. As communication professionals, we are absolutely at risk if we do not climb that value chain. We cannot remain silent because people can do the content, no problems at all, and they will not come to us if we are the gatekeeper. So what we have to do is be the partner in the organization that says, we understand AI, we understand responsible AI and the risks of AI. And it's not about stopping people doing stuff, but it's helping put the guardrails in place, which is a job we can do. Help people to navigate the content and develop the content. So we have to be the teacher of communication rather than the doer of communication is probably the way I would simplify that. But yes, jobs will be at risk if we don't do that.
And
Amanda,
I just may add a sales pitch in here. I had a look at your courses, and it's phenomenal. I mean, I'm very super interested in the strategic communication AI toolkit. So I'm sold. I'm going to explore. Thank you so much. Give it to Amanda for her question before we say goodbye.
Amanda, darling.
Hi, Adrian. It's a question and a statement. You know, first of all, about the jobs. I think this whole discussion about AI taking away jobs, it is like when they created the printing press. The people that wrote the documents over with a hand, suddenly their jobs were at risk. So if you don't upskill, sorry, Sam, you're out of there. So for me, this is not part of the discussion. Life changes, that's it. And then for me, the whole thing about AI and reputation risk and this and that, we must remember that it is artificial intelligence. And it is artificial. If we are so lazy or so lousy that we don't put human intelligence in it, we deserve all the problems that we get. So we must remember that it is artificial intelligence and check everything. And ChatGPT and all these models say, check your information. We do make mistakes. So what's the problem? Thank you so much.
Amanda, thank you for that statement because it sums it up amazingly well, because it really is. We have to have the partnership with AI. You cannot leave anything unchecked. Absolutely. The statement, it is artificial intelligence. So as much as it can help us, it can be a co-worker in what we're doing. It can't be left unchecked. It has to be there. And it is about job change. It is not about losing it. It's about doing things differently. We're the teacher rather than the creator. So it's how we change those roles. Thank you, Amanda. That you couldn't have summed that up better if I tried.
I see that we are literally on the hour, and I wish we had added another half an hour. I think it should have been an hour and a half, to be honest. I don't know if there's any other last question before we say goodbye. Adrian, any last thoughts that you have?
What I will do, and I'll send it to you, Anna, if you can send it out. I'm giving you the playbook if you haven't already got it. It's downloadable from the centre website anyway. The reimagining report, just for 2 documents, I think are really important. And do check out the Venice Pledge. It is really important. We will be looking at this every year in the Global Alliance to make sure that we are helping support you in the roles of communication professionals.
Sorry, Adrian, can I just say on that point, I tried to scan it and I see a few others as well. The link is not working.
Oh, you know what? You know what I've just realized? They've changed the website in the last little while. So I'm going to go back to them and say, you've broken the link. I guarantee that's what they've done.
Thank you.
So I will get the link to you.
So I think, Adrian, from our side, from IBC Africa, we appreciate your availability, your expertise. You've given us incredible insight, very broad context around AI, pulling it back to what we do on a daily basis, what we should be doing, and the opportunity to now upskill. And from my side to you and Sia, thank you for the work that you do. We appreciate you. To all and everyone who joined us this morning, thank you so very much. Christine, Natalie, everyone in the background, many of our board members have joined. Adrian, this was a fantastic webinar, and we hope to do a follow-up soon. We do have a conference that we're organizing. We are securing you as a masterclass speaker. You have to come to South Africa. You have no choice. You pretty much
I have to go drinking wine with Amanda. My best memories.
Well, no comment.
Always, always.
And to every other person, guys, Adrian has shared so much with us. We're going to upload this to our YouTube channel, and we'll also share the playbook and the relevant links, including the Venice Pledge. I think it's so important to push that, Adrian. Thank you so much for reminding us.
Quickly before we go, can I just acknowledge Amanda is actually part of the faculty of the Centre for Strategic Communication Excellence. So thank you, Amanda, for attending today. I didn't see you until you put your hand up before, but acknowledge that it's her brains that sit in the background with the centre as well, and keeps us in check.
Yes. Thank you, Adrian.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.